Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest here near the Danube River in Central Europe. Of course, Budapest is the capital city of the country of Hungary. And I welcome all of you. This is a members chat class. Our all chat class will start in 90 minutes with the speaking section. In this class, we will take a look at a reading passage and some yes, no, not given, true, false, not given strategy. And of course, our materials come from our websites for academic IELTS help. Check us out at aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com. You can also download the app Academic IELTS Help from your app store. And for a general version of the test, check us out at GIELTS Help. That's General IELTS Help.com, where we have lots and lots of goodies for you, over 100 hours of video lessons, fully interactive course, and 6 original practice exams. Welcome our members to the class. Hi, Mekonnen. Hi, Jayaram. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Mekonnen, you're at the exam center. Good for you. Good luck on your exam. That's awesome. And I see we have a new member as well. Welcome, Dev. All right, students, let's get ready for this lesson. If you have questions, comments, concerns, send me an email, Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. Hi, Dev. Glad to see a new face, new member. Actually, Dev, I think you're a member from before, judging by your emoji. I'm not sure why it's saying you're a new member. Maybe you've rejoined. Students, today the members chat class is reading. Again, it's followed by speaking part 1. That's for everybody. We have extra classes tomorrow. We will have a task 1 for members and a speaking part 3 for everyone. Hi, Danish. Welcome to the class. And then our classes will continue as usual from Wednesday the 18th, and then every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Hi, Amarjeet. All right. So let's get into this reading. This is reading passage 2 from our test number 5 for those of you who have our books, and it's called Earthquake Preparedness. That's the title of the passage. Members, what should you do when you begin a reading passage? What's your first step always? What is your step number 1 when you're in a reading passage for the IELTS? And this is true for academic and for the general version of the test. So step number 1, read the title. Hopefully you're thinking about that. Visualize the content and ask what, why, and how. Okay? So that is the first step to getting good reading scores. So in this case, we read the title, Earthquake Preparedness, and we visualize. So we imagine maybe that we're in an earthquake. It's quite scary. What do we need to do? If I live in an earthquake zone, and in fact, I do usually live in an earthquake zone in Victoria near Vancouver, so I know that we practice different kinds of exercises like hiding under a table or in a door frame, making sure we don't have heavy objects over our beds, making sure that we know how to escape from the building or from a school or workplace, for example. So I'm seeing all of this happen. What is this? Well, it's being ready for an earthquake when it happens. Why? To avoid injury or even death. How? By making sure that I'm safe in different ways that I mentioned. Also by making sure that I have food, water, saved for these kinds of situations. So all of those steps, and that's what I'm doing in the beginning. This is happening very quickly. I understand that you just have 20 minutes for each passage. So visualizing, thinking about what, why, how, that happens fast. Amarjeet says, imagine the plates moving, tectonic plate movement. That's right, that's what causes earthquakes. That's the why they happen, Amarjeet. That's correct. So what do I do next? So I read the title, I thought about it, I visualized it, I used some good questions to get a complete idea. And what do I do next after reading the title? This should be your step number 2, of course. And practice these steps at home all the time regularly, and maybe it will take you 30, 40 minutes at first, then it'll take you just 30, then it will take you 25, and eventually you will narrow the time to just 20 minutes, and it will be a very effective 20 minutes of reading and answering with a high degree of confidence in your answers, and that's what you need to do. Okay? Danish, I'll check it out, and I'll respond to you if you sent me an email. I'm sure I have it, so I'll take a look. If I don't, send it again. All right, so step 2. Is what? Look at the questions and check which ones to read. Read ones that have information which is in the passage. Avoid reading questions that confuse you with false or extra information. Okay? So let's do that now, members. Let's take a look at the questions for this passage. Here we have questions 14 to 17. It is a yes, no, not given question. Many students find these challenging, but there's some really good strategies to help you with this. So, yes, if the statement agrees with the claims of the writer. No, if the statement contradicts the writer. And not given if it's impossible to say what the writer is thinking about this. Should I read this question before I read the passage? Is it good to read these 1, 2, 3, 4 statements before I go ahead and look at the passage and read through it? Amarjeet says no. And you are right, Amarjeet, because this can very likely have false and extra information, which is simply just confusing. The brain's not linear. It doesn't think in a line. It thinks like a web. So it can confuse information that it reads before the passage, because once you read the passage, you will be uncertain. You can't skim or scan and search for these answers, okay? It's not possible. I'll tell you why. Because if you have a not given, it means it's not in the passage. And searching through the whole passage to maybe realize that the statement is not given wastes a lot of time and is really frustrating. Okay? Danish, most of the time, the yes, no, not given can come in the sequence of the passage, but it's not guaranteed. And the reason why, Danish, is because a not given is not in the passage, so you don't know where it comes from or where it doesn't come from. Okay, so logically, the answer is no, because not given is not in the passage, so you wouldn't know if it's in there. The yes and the no, maybe, but then you don't know, because if this one is not given and this one's a yes, then now you have no idea where this question continues, because this one is not in the passage. So this could be earlier or later. Okay, so searching for them, Danish, it's a really bad idea. It's very, very wasteful time and energy. All right, so we skip those questions and we go to the next one. Complete each sentence with the correct ending, A to G below. So here we have 4 half sentences. And then we have 7 choices. Should I read this type of question before the passage? Is it a good idea? Or should I leave this till after? What do you think? What does logic dictate? What does your critical thinking tell you? Should you read this before or not? Drum roll, please. The answer is kind of a tricky one. Read the statements only that are the first half, okay? So this information here, it's in the passage. This information here, we don't know what's in the passage. 3 of them are not in the passage, or 3 of them are wrong. So only 4 are correct there. So the trick here is just to read these parts, okay? They will help you to understand the passage and to answer these questions. So read with me. The first step after waiting out aftershocks is to. Now, if you don't understand a word like aftershocks, don't worry. Just leave it, okay? Poor construction results in buildings that offer. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they. Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to. All right. So we know that the passage will have some information about buildings and their design and their connection to earthquakes. And now we have this paragraph completion, earthquake planning. Okay, so this we can read before the passage because it's taken from the passage, a part of the passage. So we can just read this and get an idea. Planning is incredibly important. Now you can read this quickly. Don't spend a lot of time on these summary type questions. Just read through them fast, okay? So planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. Students, this is a reading class, and for all of our viewers, not just our members, while I'm doing this, make sure to read with me, okay? So read together with me, nice and loud if you can. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate to survive after the event. Don't use the words blank or space, just read the words that you see. Is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal sources may be damaged and unavailable. Conversely, will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised in an earthquake. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying in your home and workplace. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone, or if you're something on a pipe. All right, just let me get you back on screen here. Not sure why my camera cut out. Just take a moment. So we read that paragraph completion type question. Now we are ready to read the passage, okay? And so far, step 1 and 2 should really only take you about 2, maybe 3 minutes at most if it's a more difficult topic. So you shouldn't be wasting 5-10 minutes. Of course, practice will help you with this, members, so make sure that you're practicing this at home before the IELTS exam. Okay, so let's go back to the actual passage. And now many students ask, should I read the whole passage or should I just be looking for answers? If you are a student who needs band 6.5 or more, you should be reading the passage. It's easier to get a band 6.5 and especially to get a band 7 or more with reading the passage. If you can get a band 7 without reading the passage, you can probably get a 7.5 with reading the passage. So keep that in mind. All right, so students, let's read the passage together. Earthquake preparedness. Of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be the most devastating. though earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls. At their strongest, earthquakes can destroy entire cities, killing thousands and displacing millions. For regions of the world affected by earthquakes, being prepared for the big one is crucial to surviving when it eventually occurs. Earthquake preparedness takes three forms: education, construction, and planning. What is the most important sentence in this introductory paragraph? This is an important question. Strategy time. Pay close attention to the most important sentence of the passage, which is in the introduction paragraph. It is the what? Members, what's the most important sentence in the introduction? In the passage, it's also the most important sentence in your task 2 writing. What's the most important sentence? And if you're still in the chat here, if you're still watching this, Mekonnen, this will be very important for you when you sit the IELTS exam right now. So what is this sentence that will really help you in your reading and in your writing? It is the thesis, because it gives you the main ideas of the passage and the structure. Okay? That's really important. Really, really important. So when we look at this passage, the thesis is usually the last one or two sentences of the introduction. Here, earthquake preparedness takes three forms: education, construction, and planning. That means that this passage will talk about education first, connected to earthquakes. Then it will talk about construction. And last, it will talk about planning for an earthquake in this order. So this thesis sentence helps you to organize your thinking as you go through the passage. Okay, so first you realize, oh, okay, now I'm going to read about education. So let's see if this is true. Okay, let's keep reading with the next paragraph. Those who grow up in earthquake zones are very familiar with so-called earthquake drills. These exercises take place multiple times each year in school, and students practice the appropriate steps to take in the event of an earthquake. The first step is to take shelter under a strong structure. In schools, this is often a wooden desk. In the absence of such furniture, a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. Next, drop to the ground. Cover your head and neck, and only move if there's a safer place to seek shelter within short crawling distance. Keeping your head and neck covered are of critical importance, since falling hazards are often one of the biggest dangers in an earthquake. Once the shaking has stopped, people are advised to wait for any aftershocks to occur. Many deaths and injuries occur during aftershocks. Smaller earthquakes, which occur shortly after the initial quake, so staying sheltered is recommended for up to 10 minutes after the main event. Once sufficient time has passed, people should get to open ground, taking care to avoid falling hazards, especially glass structures such as windows. Okay, well, that definitely seems like education. It's talking about what people need to do in case of an earthquake. So far, the thesis is definitely following this structure. I should say the essay is following the structure of the thesis. Okay, keep that in mind. That will help you because most of the questions in the exam do come in sequence. So knowing the sequence of information is key. Okay, so if this logic holds true, then now we should be reading about construction. Let's see. One of the biggest factors that affects the number of casualties in an earthquake event is the quality of the construction of buildings that people work and reside in. Aha! In areas with poor construction standards, these buildings provide little to no protection against earthquakes. In the major earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010, poor construction standards were to blame for a large portion of the casualties. While other countries have higher standards, often these standards are not designed with earthquakes in mind. Many buildings may be built to an otherwise high safety standard, but be almost as defenseless as the Haitian buildings when facing a strong earthquake. In high-risk earthquake zones, all buildings must be constructed with an eye to earthquake preparedness. Buildings in areas such as Japan and the west coast of North America are constructed to shift a certain amount along with an earthquake. This elasticity allows the building to survive the quake. Instead of shaking and being knocked down, they are shaken and returned to their original place. This type of construction greatly minimizes the risk to inhabitants in the event of a major earthquake. Okay, great. So this is about construction. Now, to add to your skill and to your technique so you understand what you read. Okay, Joanne, welcome to the class. What should I be doing? So, okay, great. I'm paying attention to the thesis. I'm following the structure of the reading. I'm realizing that this is education. Here's construction. I'm sure it's going to be followed by planning. What should I do while I'm reading a paragraph like this about buildings and construction and being prepared for earthquakes? What should I be doing in practicing this skill at home? So this is another strategy that's very, very important to get those better, higher band scores. So while I'm reading, what should I be doing? You should consistently be doing what? Okay. What should you be doing while you read? And Joanne, you know this. You can definitely associate with this if you're living in Haiti. You should be waiting for your answers, members. We're interacting. You should be visualizing. Okay? It means you should see the information. All right? So when I read this paragraph about construction, I should see myself in countries like Japan or Haiti being inside of a building that's poorly constructed, maybe made of bricks and mortar and no special frame or no special foundation to hold the building together. That's right, Danish. You should be visualizing. So you should see this. Here is the topic sentence. There's a very quick explanation, and then they give you an example of Haiti in 2010. Then the author gives you some more explanation about earthquake zones, and then examples of earthquake zones like Japan and West Coast North America. So you should see all of that information. You should keep a catalog in your mind. Stay active. Don't let your mind daydream and drift off, okay? I still have in my mind that the next paragraph will be about planning. So let's plan, okay? The final form of earthquake preparedness is planning. Look at that. People in high-risk areas must have a plan for what to do in the event of an earthquake. And they must plan beforehand so they have appropriate supplies to survive in the initial days after the event. The most important resource after an earthquake is water. And it is recommended people keep enough water for a week, approximately 28 liters per person. Food will not usually be difficult to come by, but water, which relies on municipal delivery systems, which are very likely to be compromised by the quake, is precious. Other critical items, such as medical supplies and personal documents, should also be stored in a safe place so they can be retrieved after the event. Other measures which are useful to prepare for an earthquake are keeping a flashlight and whistle next to your bed, not hanging falling hazards such as picture frames over your bed, arranging a family contact person outside of your area, arranging a family meeting place, and identifying both hazards and refuge areas within your home, school, and workplace. Again, I'm visualizing this. So I'm seeing that, okay, I'm getting ready for the event of an earthquake in case it happens. This is actually something I really do. I live in, as I said, Victoria usually, which is an earthquake zone. So I have these big balloons of water, plastic water balloons that I keep safe for this type of event. I also have a flashlight. I have a whistle that I can use to call for help if I'm trapped. So I picture and visualize all of these steps. I have my contact information on paper so I can reach out and get help. All right. What comes next? Well, maybe some advice, a bit of a conclusion. Let's keep reading. In the event that you are trapped after an earthquake, do not struggle or kick up dust. Instead, try to make sounds such as blowing on a whistle or tapping on a pipe so that rescuers may locate you. If you have a mobile phone, use it to call or text for help. Earthquakes can be deadly. All the preparedness in the world will not help if a sufficiently large earthquake hits the wrong spot. What can be done, however, is to improve the chances of survival. Through education, appropriate construction, and diligent planning, countless lives can be saved. So there is the conclusion. They strengthen those points: education, construction, and planning. All right, now that I've read the passage, I can answer the questions. Now, if you've done a good job with your step 1, step 2, and reading the passage, step 3, you only need about 7-8 minutes to answer all of the questions. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay? So step 1, 2, and 3 should take you a maximum of about 12 minutes, leaving 8 minutes to answer questions. And that should be enough. Okay? Each passage has approximately 13 questions, and 8 minutes, that means you have 40 seconds roughly for each question. 40 seconds is a lot of time for one question on average. Okay? So that should be enough. Step 4, answer questions with correct strategies. Okay? Here we go. Let's do that together. So now we go to these yes, no, not given questions. All right, let's see what we can do with these. So number 14, most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. What do I do? How do I answer that? Is it a yes? Is it a no? Is it a not given? What do we need to do? Yes, Danish, absolutely you can take 12 minutes to read the passage, because if you understand it much better, you will be much faster with the questions and you will have much higher confidence and they will be correct more often. So absolutely, Danish. Okay, so most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Well, yes, no, not given questions. Okay, this is strategy for yes, no, not given. Also for true, false, not given. It's the same strategy. First, ask, is this important for this passage? Okay. If yes, then given, and then ask, is it true or false, or yes or no? Let's do it with this. Okay? So most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Is it important for this passage to know if most earthquakes are strong enough to cause damage? Yes, Danish, that's absolutely right. So reading like a mad squirrel that's diseased and not understanding any part of the passage, that's a problem. So Dev says, yeah, that's definitely important. So very good, Dev. So Dev says that, yeah, this one here, it's important. So therefore we know that it's given. Okay, you're right, Dev. Absolutely, it's important to know whether or not most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. Is it true? Yes, Danish Joanne, you're right. So is it true? Is it true that most earthquakes are strong enough? So we know that this is given because it's important. So now, is it true or not that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? That's your next. Dev says it's true. Danish agrees. Joanne agrees. Careful, students, viewers, members. Don't be quick to judge. Did you read that? Did you read that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause damage? I don't think you did. So I think your answer to the yes, no is maybe. Okay. Yeah, you didn't read that, right, Joanne? So I think your best answer here, if you don't remember, is maybe. So what do I do in this situation? It's kind of a strange one, right? Well, now I still have a very powerful piece of information, which is that it's given. So I know that it's somewhere in the passage. So where do you think this is in the passage? So where is it located, this number 14? Where is that located in the passage? Danish, what do you think? Where would I be able to maybe check for that information? No, Danish, I would say even earlier. Maybe in the first paragraph. That's right, Joanne. I agree with you. So let's take a look. Okay. It sounds like it's something in the beginning. So I know it's given, so if it's given, it'll be somewhere in the beginning. Of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be okay. Though earthquakes most of the time are only weak tremors which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls. At their strongest, earthquakes can destroy entire cities. So are most earthquakes strong enough to cause damage? Ah, Joanne gets it. Good, Joanne. Joanne's like, I see. Aha, eureka. Good, Joanne. Yeah. So it's worth a quick check. Unless you're 100% sure that you know the answer, it's worth a quick check. If you know about earthquakes, you actually might know that most of them, we don't even feel them. They're just very slight little tremors. So this would be a no. So all you do is put a big N into space number 14. Okay, so now you have the right technique. All right, let's go and apply this technique to the next 3 questions. The strongest part of a room is furthest away from windows that can shatter. Is it important to know where the strongest part of the room is? Is that important? Could be education, Danish. Don't jump quickly. So, Joanne says, yes, it's important. So we know it's given. Okay, so it's given. So then we know it's in the passage. Is the strongest part of the room furthest away from the windows? Ah, Omar, you're able to join and become a member. I'm so happy. I know you've wanted that for so long. Fantastic. So, is it true? Is it the strongest part of the room? Or we can ask this another way. What is the strongest part of the room? You might not have to go back to the passage for this one. Just think simple. Think critical. So what does the author say is the strongest part of the room? Does the author say that the strongest part of the room is furthest away from the windows? Or does the author say a different piece of information about what the strongest part of the room is? No problem, Amar. I'm happy to have you on board. It's fantastic. I'm glad you're able to join. So, one last time, what is the strongest part of any room? It should be away from windows, but I don't think the author says that. So the strongest part of the room is that doesn't make sense, students. Keep it simple. The strongest part of the room is the door frame, right? Again, if you don't know, you can check. So here we go. Take shelter in a school under a strong structure. This is a wooden desk. In the absence, furniture or a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. There you go. It's a door frame. Is a door frame the furthest away from windows? I don't know, but the author doesn't say it's the windows. So, in this case, the answer has to be no. Okay? No, because the author says the strongest part of the room is the door frame. The author doesn't say it's the part that's furthest away from the windows. Number 16, your head and neck are the weakest parts of your body and must be protected. Is it important to know whether your head and neck are the weakest parts of your body? Amarwadi says no. Amarjit says that's not important. Yeah, not the must be protected, but it's the weakest parts of your body. It's not important, so it's not given. Now this one's a bit tricky, students, and here we're looking for that band 8, band 9 student, because here, sure, we have to protect our head, but the sentence is saying they're the weakest parts of the body, okay? The author doesn't talk about the head and the neck being the weakest parts of the body. The author says that you have to protect your head and neck because there are falling objects. In fact, your head and your neck are quite strong. Your neck is one of your biggest muscles, and your head is protected by your skull. They're not weak parts of the body at all. Okay, so that one's not given. Last one, aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. Is it important to know for this passage if aftershocks are incredibly dangerous? Aftershocks are the little earthquakes that come after the big earthquake. So is it important to know if aftershocks are dangerous? Joanne says yes, so we know it's given. And are aftershocks incredibly dangerous? Are they something to worry about in case of a big earthquake? Yes, absolutely. So, students, here the correct answer is no, no, not given, yes. This is a perfect example of why you should not skim or scan for these types of questions, because 2 of the 4 are false or no, 1 is not given, and only 1 is given. So using good reading techniques, reading the passage and using a good strategy is much, much more effective. Now, Danish, be careful when you're giving answers in your answer sheet. If it's yes, no, not given, you have to write yes and no, otherwise you'll get those wrong. So if you write false instead of no, it's going to be wrong. If you write true instead of yes, it's going to be wrong. So really pay attention if it's a yes, no, not given or a true, false, not given. Okay. All right. Let's look at the next set of questions. So here we have the sentence completion. So complete the sentence. Here with these, you should always try to complete them on your own. So the first step after waiting out an aftershock is to. So what's the first step? What should you do first after an aftershock? How would you complete that sentence? So after you waited for the earthquake, waited for the end of the earthquake, waited for the end of those aftershocks, what should you do according to this author? And if you visualized, if you saw the information, you probably saw yourself doing this. What did you see yourself doing? What did you see yourself do? Terrible earthquake. So Amar Wadi says to look for shelter. You're probably doing that, Amar, during the earthquake. So while the earthquake is happening, you're looking for shelter. You're trying to dive underneath a table. As you can guess, I have a table to my left. That's where I was diving. If I'm going for my door frame, I'm going this way to the right. So that's what you're doing while the earthquake's happening. But this is after the aftershocks, which is the end of it. Yeah, so Joanne says, find some open ground. So get into some open space. And we have that there. B, leave the building and find open ground. Now, if I don't know this and I have to search, I probably should realize that it's in the part where the passage discusses education. So learning about the correct steps, right? So Amarjeet says, okay, yeah, so that's going to be B, which is this here. Leave the building and find open ground. Poor construction results in buildings that offer what? Offer means give. So in your own words, poor construction, poor means bad. So bad construction creates buildings that offer what? In your own words, how would you finish that sentence after you're reading this passage? Well, I would probably finish it by saying poor construction results in buildings that offer very little protection or no protection against an earthquake. Okay, so they give very little protection or almost no protection if an earthquake happens. So let's see if I can find that. So poor construction results in buildings that offer are not designed to withstand earthquakes. That's bad grammar. Remember that the sentence ending has to make a sentence which is clear in grammar. So there can't be grammar mistakes. Okay. A modicum of earthquake protection. I don't know what modicum means. Okay. Move in response to an earthquake. Lack the flexibility that Haitian buildings have. Withstand earthquakes due to their rigid construction. Little protection in an earthquake. Well, I know what little protection in an earthquake means. Amarjeet says, hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's not rush here. Just because we see a fancy word doesn't mean it's correct. And Amar agrees. And I agree. Anybody know what a modicum of earthquake protection? Anybody know what modicum means? M-O-D-I-C-U-M. It's an advanced word. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it's correct. So I would go with G here. Okay. Modicum, I believe, means something like plenty or a variety of protection. So that wouldn't make sense. Okay. But you can look up that word and find out its meaning. Okay, even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they... I'm going to finish this one. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they are not designed for earthquakes. I can create a beautiful glass building. If it's not made for earthquakes, it will shatter and fall to pieces, right? A, are not designed to withstand earthquakes. That looks great. A, it is. Absolutely. And all of you agree. That's fantastic. Good job, members. So the trick with these kinds of questions is you should try to think about the answer or how to finish the sentence on your own and then find the match in the possible choices. Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to withstand earthquakes, flex, move in response to an earthquake. Okay, that would be the ways I would finish this sentence. I visualized in the passage that North America and Japan are earthquake zones, so they make buildings which withstand earthquakes. How do they do these? Well, by moving and shifting and bouncing around and then kind of bouncing back to their original. Yeah, so Amarjeet says they're flexible, are designed. Now, Amarjeet, just make sure your grammar is correct, are designed to be flexible, right? So to be flexible. So lack the flexibility, no. Okay. Move in response to an earthquake. That looks good, right? They're designed to move. Lack means not have the flexibility, right? So careful. So D looks good. So D is the right answer. Okay. If you don't understand key words in the choices, you might be in trouble. Okay. So you need to understand words like lack so you know that it's not the right choice. So B, G, A, D are the correct answers there. Okay. Members, one more question set left. It is the paragraph completion, and we have choices here. But again, don't look at the choices first. Don't try to get the answer from the question. Instead, get the answer from your head, from your brain. Okay? If you're doing the IELTS exam and you're hoping that the exam will give you the correct answers to the questions, it's not a good strategy, and you will get a much lower score than if you're using your intelligent supercomputer globulus that's on top of your shoulders, your brain. Okay, use that. The IELTS is a thinking exam. So these are here to help you, but the answers are coming from this beautiful noggin of yours that sits on top of your shoulders and is the most fascinating supercomputer known to mankind. Okay, so that's where the magic happens, not on the piece of paper. So again, read an answer. Earthquake planning. Planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate what? What do I have? Appropriate what? In case of an earthquake. Appropriate things or stuff? What's a better word for that? Gear, appropriate equipment, gear or equipment, that kind. Appropriate tools, says Amar. That's a good one, Amar. Do we have something like that? We don't have tools. We don't have equipment. Resource, food, clothing, tapping, safety, water, knock, hazards, supplies. What's the closest one to tools or equipment? Deb says, and Joanne agrees, that it's supplies. And I agree. So here, remember, you have to put the letter, not the word. Okay, if you put the word, you'll get it wrong. The question is asking for the letter. So make sure you put the letter into the space. So it's H. Okay, supplies. Something is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal sources may be damaged and unavailable. Oh, I clearly remember that. Hi, Siva. Welcome. Another new member. Fantastic. Yeah, Joanne, think about your answer, of course, and then choose the right one. So water, right? And water is B. Water is the most crucial. Okay? Conversely, something will be less scarce. So we need water because we don't have fresh water after an earthquake. What do we have lots of, or what do we still have after an earthquake? So conversely means opposite. So opposite to water, something will be less scarce. Less means not as rare. So what do we have enough of after an earthquake? Joanne says food. We still have food because, okay, sure, you're not going to have some nice boxes of cereal and cans of beans organized on the shelves. They'll be all over the ground, maybe a little bit dusty, but you're still going to have food. Okay, you'll still have food. Now, let's see. There it is. Food, right? Good. Okay, good job, Dev. Good job, Amarjeet. Yeah, food. We have lots of food. So C. So food will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised. Compromised, obviously, now you realize means damaged in an earthquake. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying something in your home and workplace. What do we find in our home or workplace? Maybe some safe zones or some areas that are strong or that are dangerous, right? What do you think? Which one of these, identifying something in your home and workplace, so not hanging picture frames or identifying dangers? Identifying safety in your home and workplace is not going to be correct. Okay. Amarjeet says it's got to be hazards, and you're right, Amarjeet. So that one's hazards. So dangers. Okay, hazards is another way to say dangers. Like don't stand next to your gas oven in case of an earthquake. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone, or if you're trapped, try something on a pipe. Now here you need to know that a pipe means this type of an object, okay? Maybe for water or for some other, for electricity. Hopefully there's nothing going through it. So what can you do with the pipe? You can hit it. Ding, 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 ding. Hopefully somebody hears you. And that's tapping. So that's a little bit trickier. You have to know the word tapping is the correct continuous form of the verb. It's not knock, because knock is not the correct verb form. If it were knocking, it would be correct, but it's not knocking. It's just knock. So that's wrong. So it has to be tapping. Good job, Amar Wadi. All right, students, that's a quick rundown of how to approach your IELTS reading passage. Again, remember these steps. Read the title, visualize it, think critically, ask what, why, how. Look at the questions. Read the ones that are in the passage. Read information that's in the passage. Avoid reading information that's false or that's not in the passage. Then read the passage. Pay attention to the thesis statement. Keep that structure in mind. Visualize while you are reading. Then answer the questions in about 8 minutes. Use correct strategies. Don't panic. Okay, go through the steps and you will be correct. And that is right, Amarwadi. Try plus verb plus ing. Try doing the IELTS reading passage in this way. Try doing the passage in this way. Good job, members. And I think we have 2 or 3 new members in here today. New members, make sure to send me an email. Tell me your membership level so I can give you the correct perks. We do have 4 levels. So send me an email and I will hook you up. All right, students, in 30 minutes, we are continuing with speaking strategy and practice for part 1. To get all of our fantastic materials, including our app for academic IELTS, you can get our app, get our full course through the app, or you can go to our website, aehelp.com, and access it through there. The website and the app, they integrate with each other. You can also get all of that by purchasing our 3rd and 4th level membership or joining the 3rd and 4th level membership on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much, members. It's great to be back after taking a week off. I'm happy to see so many of you being studious. Amar, I'm so happy to see you among our membership now as well. And great job, Joanne, Dev, Amarjeet, Siva. Happy to have you on board. Thanks, everyone. See you in 30 minutes for speaking. Bye for now.